Now, this is a story all about how I had a podcast that you're listening to now. Welcome back to Direct Edition, a podcast about nothing and everything. And I'm your host, your captain, Dave. Look at me. I am the captain now. And I'm returning to a solo episode to give you all a break from listening to two people. I don't know. I thought it would be good to do a check-in and talk about things I'm enjoying right now and give a little light in dark times. I hope you've been enjoying the interviews that I've been putting down. Matt Fraction, Johnny Phillip, and my buddy, Robert Kirkman and David Finch, and Felipe Smith and Daniel Warren Johnson. Some stuff in the works in the pipeline, but I'm always trying to do new things. Look at my eyebrows. Look at the brow. The mold. Yeah. I want to say as well, thank you to the Patreon subscribers. In the first couple of weeks of my Patreon, we're almost at 50 paid subscribers, $5 a month, and you get additional episodes of this and my other channel, West Coast Davengers. But I added a 15-minute bonus episode of Matt Fraction on there this week, and you're hearing this a couple weeks after. So thank you once again, everybody that has taken part of that. Yes, with Matt Fraction, I'm going to show this off just very briefly. This is the giant size edition of his first Batman issue. And if you enjoy Batman movies, if you enjoy Batman books, if you enjoy Batman anything, that's a good book. It feels like classic Batman, but for modern times, if that makes sense. Speaking of modern times, if you're not watching, I don't go into spoilers on this podcast unless it's something that's, past history, 2-year-old movie, 20-year-old movie, Jaws, the shark is Roy Scheider's father. You find that one out in the second movie. I won't go into spoilers on current stuff though, but 5 episodes or 4 episodes into Alien Earth. And it's interesting. I've had a lot of conversations with different friends about how they feel about this show. I love it. I love it for so many reasons, mostly being that it's a Noah Hawley show, and Noah Hawley, for me, in what I've digested of his work, he busted onto the scene with Legion, which was a show based off of the X-Men character, New Mutants character. It's such a not Marvel thing, and it is so weird. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. He busted onto the scene with Fargo. And when I first heard Fargo was announced, I was like, it's a fucking amazing, like it's a 10 out of 10 Coen Brothers movie.
Well, what does this guy look like anyways?
Oh, he's a little guy, kind of funny looking.
Uh-huh.
Coen Brothers have several 10 out of 10 movies, and I would put that, for me, above Lebowski.
This aggression will not stand, man.
Even though I think Lebowski's, top 3 of their movies. But Fargo's probably my favorite Coen Brothers movie. And when I heard they were doing a show of it, I'm like, I'm not a huge fan at that time, which was about a decade ago. I wasn't a huge fan of the idea of like taking a movie and making it a TV show.
This isn't one of those optional check A or B scenarios. I'm going to change your mind.
Now, I think with somebody like him, especially, it's done really well. But now I think it's definitely been better than we ever deserve. Having, movies that are TV shows based off of movies. But Fargo first season, which Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton were the stars.
If I was any kind of man, I'd have shown that Sam what's what.
I was like, he got the tone of the Coen Brothers down within like the first 2 episodes. I felt that, but it had its spin on it where it was like weird. It was not abstract. There were abstract moments where something would happen and they would never explain what it was. It was just there. One of the things in that first season that I was convinced in the first maybe 4 episodes, even further down, was that Billy Bob Thornton's character wasn't actually there. Like he wasn't a real person. He was an imaginary character. I think I went back and watched that season again, and then I was like, no, there's a couple characters that noticed him and he is real. But Hawley would go on to craft these seasons, which you don't have to watch season 1 if you want to jump into season 3. there is just a tiny, tiny bit of overlap in characters via ancestry, or like, or they reference something that happened just as a piece of history, much like True Detective in season 2. There's one reference to the events of season 1. Season 3, I think there's 1 or 2 references to season 1. So they always kind of go back and just reference the events as like a news story. But with Fargo, there's like, I believe there was one character in season 2 that was related to one of the characters in season 1. If you've not watched Fargo, just take the plunge, because like you're instantly interested in these characters. The most recent season that starred John Hamm and Juno Temple was a fireball. I mean, it was so good.
Defender of freedom and protector of the common man against the tyranny of the state and all its wicked demands.
And Hamm plays just such an unlikable piece of shit character, with also so much charm. And the previous season with Chris Rock and Jason Schwartzman was great.
He's JP fucking Morgan. An American success story.
Because it was different. And yeah, it's just, you should watch Fargo. And then he came out with Legion, and Legion was so weird.
Nothing that hurts me is real. No one who hates me is real.
I dug it so much, but it was just so weird. Definitely not for everybody. And yeah, and then he's doing Alien Earth. It feels like a Noah Hawley show, but it also has like the opening, and the credits are very short. It's like a 10-15 second thing, but it's got imagery that kind of makes you unsettled. And it almost sounds like there's some piece of a Nine Inch Nails song in that opening credit sequence. But the 4th episode, which was the most recent one as I'm recording this, was so unnerving. So unnerving. And it focuses on the character that you think might be really evil and not good. And then you kind of get his story and you understand him a little more. The one point of debate between a couple of friends, and even I looked on Reddit to see if this was a point of contention for people, but each episode ends with a song. Like, it's kind of like an exclamation point on the end of the episode is like a song from, generally it seems to be the 90s. And it's interesting because the show is Alien Earth, so it's supposed to be grounded in the fact that this is Earth at some point. But some people are saying it doesn't feel right because it doesn't kind of go in line with what we're used to with Aliens and the Alien series. But I like it. I feel like it always puts a smile on my face, but it always accentuates that episode. Tool, they use Tool in one episode. They use Smashing Pumpkins, Jane's Addiction, and Metallica so far. And I dig it. I dig the cinematography. I think they're doing great. What they're doing with the budget that they have, and using CG when they obviously have to, and using real practical sets and effects when they have to, it looks really good. I'm excited to see where it goes, specifically because the timeline of this is set, I think, between Covenant and the first Alien. So it's an unexplored part of this universe that most of us have grown up watching or been indoctrinated in by other people. And it's interesting because I'm talking to people like, oh, I went back and watched the first 2 Aliens, and I'm skipping Alien 3 and Resurrection, and I think the only skippable ones 100% are Alien Predator. Those 2 movies are dog shit. Alien 3 was the first movie of the series I saw in the theater because I was 7 or 8 when Aliens came out. My parents would not let me see it. I watched it at one of my old friends, Jason Rando. I watched it at his house. So Alien 3 was the first one I saw in the theaters, and it's, obviously historically mixed, but I think it's looked back favorably these days. It was David Fincher's first full-length movie. He walked off of that movie at some point because the studio, there was so much interference, which is kind of legendary. The Blu-ray has the assembly cut, which is closer to the original script. I read the novelization in high school before the movie came out by, I think it was Alan Dean Foster. But I want to say maybe it was based off of William Gibson's script. So the assembly cut is more towards that. But going back now that we have Fincher, like seeing where he came from on that movie, I love that movie. Resurrection, I'll never be fully sold on. I never was at the time. It has its moments, but I like it enough. I'll say that. Prometheus, I liked from the drop. I thought that movie was fantastic when I saw it in theaters. I know that one came under a lot of fire because of the character motivations, which are, some of them are quite stupid, but it's a beautiful looking movie. And I think it laid a lot of groundwork that they could build upon. Covenant, never going to be completely sold on that movie either. I love the first half, and I'm not a fan of the second half. I thought it was very predictable. Yeah, I thought it was very predictable. I'll go back and watch it, but I have no hopes of ever really enjoying it fully. And now we have Alien Earth. Oh, and Romulus. I really liked Romulus. That's one I'd like to watch again. And I it's interesting because a lot of people are revisiting it, trying to get themselves pumped up to watch Alien Earth. And if, like I said, if you like Noah Hawley's TV shows, you're gonna like this by default, even if you're not a fan of the Alien franchise. It's just done so well. And so that's been definitely a point of me enjoying every week when it drops. Peacemaker's out. I thought the first 2 episodes were good, not great. I heard this newest episode was really good. Yeah, I love the first season. Everybody involved in it, I am a fan of. I do not think the new season is bad. I just thought the first 2 episodes kind of spun its wheels a little bit. It's early on, and so, you know, I'm love James Gunn, so I know I'm going to enjoy this. So that's the TV I've been consuming. But one thing I forgot that I wanted to do. I had this thought a couple months ago, and it's definitely something I want to talk heavily about. Is I wanted to go back and start rewatching Stranger Things. Stranger Things is something that came to me in whenever it came out. It was very quiet when it came out. And my buddy Phil, that's you, buddy. Yep, that's my editor. He texts me and he's like, "Hey, have you heard about this show, Stranger Things?" I started watching it. I think he said, and I could be wrong, but I think he said he watched, he might have been sick or hungover, and he watched the entire first season right there. And he's like, "Dude, you're going to love this show. It's a throwback to the stuff you grew up watching," because he's a little bit younger than me. He's 10 years younger than me. But he's like, "It's a throwback to all of the things that you grew up watching, and it feels really fresh." And so I put it on, and right away I was like, yes, this is awesome. And it took, I could be wrong on the timeline, because like, it was 11 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. But I feel like it took about a month or so for that show to catch like wildfire. And when it did, it caught. And we're still in its wake, because the final season hasn't come out yet. It's coming out at the end of this year. But my God, I started rewatching it and fell in love all over again with that first season. Now, my memory serves me correctly. I thought the second season was good, but the second season definitely hinged on homaging stuff a little too much. Third season was a little slow and wasn't my favorite. I want to say it was the fourth season then on is when it got really good again. I think it was that fourth season. It was when they were all working at the mall.
Ahoy!
Ahoy!
Ahoy! Starcourt Mall is one of the finest shopping facilities.
And the characters, obviously, you fall in love with. They're very easy to fall in love with, especially going forward as they grow older and the chemistry increases between the actors and actresses. I'll never be a fan of, what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown. I do not think that she's that talented, but I think in that show, she fits. And I think the cast just all kind of brings them all up. But I've seen her in other things and I'm not a fan. That first season is so special because it didn't rely on the tropes of everything. It kind of created, it leaned on the references and inspiration, but it didn't feel like it was copying things or anything. But that second season, I remember there's one episode where it is a straight homage to Aliens and Gremlins in one episode. And I thought it was cool, but at the same time, I was like, I see what you're doing, but it doesn't feel like it's original when you're doing that. Like, I remember it's like the Demogorgons coming up from the bottom or the chasm, and they're using the alien sound of the tracker and like all that stuff. But at the same time, I still loved that season. I still like the show. What is interesting about Stranger Things, and Harry Potter is definitely like the Harry Potter movies have led or laid the groundwork for stuff like this in the modern kind of times of like the kid-centric cast and growing up with them is such an interesting thing. The movies are its own thing, and obviously, you know, the piece of shit that J.K. Rowling has become has nothing to do with the fact that we fell in love with these characters, either in the books if you grew up reading them, or the movies if you never read the books. And you know, that entire cast, you know, we love them, and Daniel Radcliffe has turned out to be such not just a stellar actor, but a stellar human being.
And the whole world will be dancing and singing and farting, and everyone will feel a little bit less alone.
Going back to Stranger Things, what Stranger Things did, for better or for worse, if you're a parent and your kids grew up watching Stranger Things, I think that's such an awesome thing. But what I was saying, for better or for worse, what I noticed, and I'm 100% confident that this traces back to Stranger Things. Stranger Things comes out and is almost like a PG-13, almost leaning towards R in its kind of horror vibe, violence, you know, grossness and all that stuff. But what Stranger Things did, it found this niche for the studios to create almost adult, like towing that line between this is a kid's show, but adults will love it too. And the nostalgia is why us adults really loved it. It was dark in the places it needed to be dark, but it was soft in the places that it needed to be so that parents could say, yes, it's okay to watch this. And that laid the groundwork for so many projects coming out that were aimed at that 13 to 18-year-old with the in mind that the adults can enjoy this too. And there are so many projects that came out that I was like, this is awesome that this exists. But it also ruined at least one thing that I can pinpoint that I was excited for to come out was Sweet Tooth, which was a Jeff Lemire comic that ran DC Vertigo. I want to say I think it was Vertigo. 60 issues, great story, fantastic book. You know, Lemire's art is so non-mainstream that like it works so well for me. It was a dark story. It was a really dark story. And when that show came out on Netflix, I think I watched the entire first season, and I was like, this isn't Sweet Tooth. This is Sweet Tooth for the Stranger Things generation. And that's okay. I still have the comic. You know, I enjoyed the comic. It'll never, the fact that show came out and I didn't like it didn't make me not like the comic anymore. I'm not one of those people, and we all know they're out there. You might be one of them who's like, oh, it's ruined. They ruined it. The movie sucked. The TV show sucked. It's ruined. It's like the thing that you liked, supposedly, that you liked still remains the same thing that you did when you liked it when you read it. Those things don't change. No. But the Stranger Things-ification of a lot of things, and I can't pinpoint anything right now that there's other things that I know I can rattle off examples, but we've all seen it. And I think that's great, because for people my age, in your 40s, your mid 40s, grew up liking things like Back to the Future or Gremlins, Ghostbusters, Star Wars, these things that had undertones that like Ghostbusters is the greatest example. That was a kid's movie with total adult jokes in it.
Are you the key master?
Not that I know of.
Dan Aykroyd, Ray, getting a blowjob from a ghost, and all of the sexual jokes and all of the things that Bill Murray says, those are adult jokes. I didn't fucking get them when I was a kid. And now as an adult, I appreciate that movie on such a different level. And Gremlins is a horror movie that just was able to be aimed at kids, and it was frightening It was the first movie that gave me nightmares. Even Poltergeist, we think that's a terrifying movie for kids, yet there's kids in it. And the main, Carol Ann, she saves the day.
Run to the light, baby. Tell her to stay away from the light. Go into the light.
I think having these types of things like Stranger Things is a benefit for kids growing up. It's all, rooted in fantasy, horror, science fiction, Dungeons and Dragons references, like all that stuff speaks to so many different people now. And I whether I liked certain seasons or not, I respect the hell out of that show for paving the way for kids to grow up watching fun stuff that's going to really stick with them and also like work that imagination, I'm going to start season 2 probably this week, and I can probably finish the season a week because the 8 to 12 episodes, if I watch one a day or whatever. So that I've been enjoying. I'm excited for the final season. I mean, I vaguely remember the big plot points of the final season, but Eddie being that character that came around, played by Joe, whatever his name is, that played Johnny Storm, man, is great character. And the fact that kids like know Master of Puppets now. My friend Seth, his daughter knows Metallica now because of Stranger Things. It's crazy shit. Anything that we can use, whether it be movies, TV, whatever it is, to keep this going for future generations, to keep them wrapped up and enjoying things that came years before they were born. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I have such a respect and such a love for comics history or music history, is because I started to explore the things that came before it. And it might have been because of a movie, because of, Beavis and Butthead or something, just anything that gets the future generations interested in the stuff in the history that came before it. And that goes with real history, like exploring reasons for conflicts or the reasons that certain things exist in this world and how we can work to change that. History does teach us everything we need to know. So yes, excited for the next season of Stranger Things, but really enjoying going back and watching these kids grow up too. Also been watching the King of the Hill reboot or the continuation, which has been fun, but I've not watched all of King of the Hill. Like I watched the first maybe 4 to 6 seasons. You bastard! But the new stuff has been enjoyable. I mean, Mike Judge doesn't really get it wrong. It's very rare that we look at something that Mike Judge has done and be like, it was okay. Very rare, very rare. And then music. There's been some really fantastic albums that have come out in the last month. One that might surprise you that I'll talk about, but we'll start with the new Deftones album, Private Music. Fucking banger of an album. Fantastic, heavy when it needs to be, spacey when it needs to be, and not soft, but chill in moments where it needs to be. And that's a band that I was late to. I was not listening to them back in the early 2000s when all my friends were listening to them. The one song that I did know is probably the song that most people knew is House of Flies, because that song might have been on Tony Hawk, but I know it from the Queen of the Damned soundtrack. And when I first heard it, I was like, damn, this is a great song. And I put it on I think it was on every single one of my party mixes going forward from then on. So it was a song that I absolutely loved, but I never really, got into them. I understood that they were like influenced by so many bands that I really love, especially, I hear a lot of Alice in Chains in there in certain ways. And, obviously Tool, but they were, Maynard's on White Pony on Passenger. So they were, contemporaries in ways. But the new album is just fantastic. My only criticism, and it's not a criticism, but my only criticism is that like that album hits its stride, like it's on a high note when it ends. And I'm just like, man, I want like 6 more tracks after that last track, but whatever. Another album that came out very recently is a band called The World is a Beautiful Place and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die, which sometimes gets shortened to The World Is, TWIABP. They are, I mean, it's so interesting to categorize them because it's really hard to put them in even just in a genre, but emo punk, whatever. But their new album is so heavy. It's thrash metal. It's like mathy thrash metal. It's so, lyrically, they have always been such an interesting band to me. They're wordy, but they reuse, like there's always a song on one of their albums that kind of references a song that came before it, either by title or by lyrics. And I really enjoy that. But this is a very angry album. It's very politically current, real feelings, real anger, real fear. They deal with they're a band that's I think only one of the founding members is still in the band. They've always been like an open revolving door, and most of the members that are in the band now have been in the band for 10 plus years. But they're a band that I found out via Tumblr, I want to say, in the early 2010s or something like that. And they had a nasty sense of humor, and they were very self-deprecating, but very thoughtful in their songwriting and very, very, very technically sound. Some of the best recorded drums I've ever heard on their albums. Great guitar work, but the new album is heavy as fuck. I would put it is heavier than the Deftones album. There's a lot of screamo elements in it, but just lyrics that you can definitely relate to as a human being, as a working class human being in this world. There's a lot in there to relate to. That's the name of the album's Dreams of Being Dust, I believe is the name. And their last album, which was called Illusory Walls, is one of my favorites in the last 10 years. And if you're adverse to the kind of experimental nature of song lengths, it may not be for you, but their last 2 songs combined to be about 36 minutes, but it's not like it's just like they construct these. Probably what they do is they construct a song and they're like, we'll add to it. And then they're like, well, this is like 3 separate songs, but we can just put it into one. Anyway, Illusory Walls is fantastic album, but their new one is definitely, it's not a departure from their sound, but it's just leaning into the heavier version of their sound. And then finally, an album that if you would have put this on my bingo card, like, Dave, you're going to absolutely fall in love with this person's solo album, I would have been like, really? But Hayley Williams, lead singer and frontwoman of Paramore, released I guess it's her 3rd solo album, which started as just her self-releasing tracks and that's it. It's an album called Ego Death at the Bachelorette Party. And I never listened to Paramore. I believe I saw them once at Warped Tour. Very aware of who they are, very aware of her. And I started to get videos of them performing and her performing solo thrown onto my TikTok algorithm. And she's one hell of a performer, great energy, seems like a very loved person also by the fans. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. Always, friends listen to her, post about her, but once again, the algorithm doing the job for me. Her single for the title track for Ego Death at the Bachelorette Party was on my YouTube algorithm. And so I clicked on it. I'm like, let me see what this song is. And it's fucking great. It's already definitely going to be one of my top songs of the year. And so I started exploring a little more, watched a couple interviews with her, started listening to the songs as they were. And then, the album officially was announced with another track, and it's 17 tracks. But I like to put on a good album to, take my daily walk to. And that one's like 60 minutes and it's perfect. And it is what I really like about the album and what I like about her solo stuff. Her sound is varied. It's not pigeoned into it. It's not pop punk. It's not, whatever Paramore is considered rock, pop punk, whatever. But it just is a very lush sounding album with a lot of different tracks. And I think as a lyricist, she's extremely relatable and fantastic at what she does. And I once again, would not have imagined that was a album that I would listen to right away and then start listening to a lot. And it has been. And it's been, I've been enjoying the hell out of it. So I'm actually think I'm going to put together a top 10 list of albums this year, because I think this year has been, personally, for my taste, great for music. And it'll be something that I'll go over on this podcast. But Ego Death at the Bachelorette Party and might even be my top album of the year. We shall see. But yeah, Deftones, World is a Beautiful Place and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die, and Hayley Williams have been on my rotation very heavily over the last 3 weeks or so. And so I wanted to share that with you. I thought this would be a fun little catch up with some of the things I'm enjoying right now. Like I said, the Batman book by Fraction has been, first issue was great. War by Becky Cloonan and Garth Ennis is the scariest story I've read so far this year. I'm not done with it because it's being collected, I think, over 3 or 4 issues. Absolute Wonder Woman, also fantastic. Shout out to my buddy Sanford Green, that great variant cover that he put out this past week. Been reading a lot of manga. Been reading Killer Shark from Another Universe and Pipochu and the Spawn manga. I've been trying to read as much as I can because it's good for your brains. Before we get going, if you haven't subscribed to the Patreon, consider it. It would be awesome to see you on there. $5 a month gets you at least one episode of this that's exclusive to the Patreon, West Coast Davengers episode that's exclusive to the Patreon, voting on that West Coast Davengers episode. But to be honest with you, I'm just going to keep pumping stuff out. If I feel like I want to record something that is more for my Patreon subscribers, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to try and tie myself to doing just the thing I said I'm going to do. I'm always trying. And then the private sale, which is a drop of books and different stuff that you get to see, and it's exclusive to you before anybody else gets to buy it. The next one's going to be early November before I go to Japan. And this season 4 of the podcast, this is not included in it, but season 4 is going to end right before I go to Japan. And then I will be sure to have season 5 start when I get back. And hopefully it's just going to be bigger and better and awesome. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit the like button. You can, the algorithm likes it when you comment on it, like it, share it, all that good stuff. And if you haven't gone on to review the podcast on Spotify or Apple, come on, what are you doing? Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of Alien Earth, or what you think of Stranger Things and what I say that the road of Stranger Things entails. What albums have you been listening to recently? I'm sure a lot of you like Deftones that are listening to this right now. So what's your favorite track? I think my favorite track is CXZ. Other than that, I'll see you soon. This has been Direct Edition. I'm Dave.